There comes a moment in every person's life when they look in the mirror and realize they were meant for more. More than just surviving, more than just settling, more than just waking up, going through the motions and calling it life. If you're here right now, it's not by accident. Deep inside you, there's a voice, a whisper that says, I was made for something greater. That whisper, that's your standard calling you higher. Let me ask you something. What if the only thing standing between the life you're living and the life you're truly capable of is the standard you've been willing to settle for? You don't get what you want in life, you get what you tolerate. And today, right here, right now, we're going to break that cycle. We're going to uncover 7 ways to raise your standards so high that the old version of you couldn't even recognize the person you're about to become. Are you ready? Because when we're done here, you won't be the same person who walked in. Let me tell you something that most people never realize. Your life changes the moment you decide what you will no longer tolerate. That's where transformation starts. It doesn't begin with a goal or a vision board or a new planner. It begins with a moment of truth. A moment when you look around at your life and say, enough. I'm done living like this. See, we've all been conditioned to accept certain things. We adapt, we normalize, we tolerate, and over time, those little compromises become our standard. We settle into relationships that don't inspire us, routines that don't challenge us, and thoughts that don't serve us. And then we wonder why we feel stuck. But the truth is, we're not stuck, we're just unwilling to disrupt our comfort. We're tolerating too much. You've got to draw a line in the sand. You've got to decide what you're done with. Not someday, not when it's convenient. Now. That moment when you raise your standard is the moment everything starts to shift. It's not dramatic at first, it's subtle. It's the decision to stop making excuses, to stop accepting your own stories, to stop playing small. I've seen it happen in people's lives again and again. They didn't wait for perfect timing. They didn't need someone to rescue them. They just got fed up with their own mediocrity. They said, I'm not going to be this version of me anymore. And from that place of zero tolerance, they built something extraordinary, not because they were better or more talented, but because they got honest about what was no longer acceptable. Think about this. What are you tolerating right now that's keeping you from your next level? Is it your health? Your income? The way someone speaks to you? The way you speak to yourself? Are you tolerating distraction, disorganization, disconnection? Whatever it is, get real with it. You can't change what you won't confront. When you raise your standard, the universe responds. Your energy shifts, your choices shift, people feel it. And suddenly, the doors that used to be closed begin to crack open. But those doors only open for the version of you that refuses to settle anymore. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow and refusing to tolerate just one thing that's been holding you back. Maybe it's hitting the snooze button. Maybe it's scrolling on your phone first thing in the morning. Maybe it's the way you've been showing up half-heartedly at work or in your relationships. Just one thing. And now imagine stacking those decisions day after day, choice after choice. That's how new standards are built. Not in one big leap, but in a series of small, powerful decisions made with absolute certainty. The truth is, your standards shape your identity, and your identity shapes your destiny. If you want to change your life, you don't need to do more. You need to become more. And becoming more begins with deciding what you'll no longer accept from yourself or from the world around you. So ask yourself right now, what am I done tolerating? Not in a year, not next month, today. Draw the line, set the new bar, and don't you dare go back, Because when you finally raise your standards, life has no choice but to rise and meet you there. That's when everything starts to change. Let me ask you something. Simple but powerful. What's pulling you forward right now? Not what you're running from, not what you're trying to fix, but what's the vision that's so clear, so compelling, so magnetic that it gets you out of bed with fire in your gut? Because if you don't have that, you're drifting. And when you drift, you end up somewhere you never meant to be. The problem with most people isn't that they don't have goals, it's that their goals have no power. They're weak, they're vague, they're not connected to anything bigger than just getting by. Pay the bills, lose a little weight, make a little more money. And that's fine until life punches you in the mouth, until things get hard, until motivation dries up. And when that moment comes, and it will, you need something bigger pulling you forward. You need a vision, a real one that lights you up and scares you a little at the same time. Something that makes you stretch, that makes you grow, that makes you show up like your life depends on it, because it does. Without a vision, your standard stays low. Because why would you fight for more if you don't even know what more looks like? I've worked with people who had every disadvantage. No money, no support, no formal education. But you know what they had? A picture in their mind of the life they were going to create. And that picture was so vivid, so emotional, so real to them that it overpowered every excuse, every limitation. That's what a compelling vision does. It becomes more real than your current reality. If you want to raise your standards, you have to raise the standard of your vision. Most people set their vision based on their current circumstances. But if you're only dreaming as big as what your bank account or your resume says is possible, you're already capped. You've already sold yourself short. Stop basing your future on where you are. Base it on where you're capable of going and who you're capable of becoming. You've got to get obsessed with the future version of you. See it, feel it, speak it out loud, write it down. Picture it every single day like it already exists. You've got to turn that vision into an emotional experience so real that your brain starts believing it's already happening. Because once your brain believes it, your actions start aligning. Your habits change. Your language changes. Your energy changes. That's how people make quantum leaps in their lives. It's not magic. It's vision backed by standards that don't bend. But here's the key. Your vision isn't just about you. It's just about you. You'll quit when it gets uncomfortable. But when your vision becomes about who you're doing this for, your kids, your family, your mission, your legacy, that's when the fire becomes permanent. That's when giving up is no longer an option. So if you're feeling uninspired, unmotivated, or stuck, it's not that you're broken. It's just that your vision isn't strong enough to pull you yet. Create one that makes you emotional, one that makes you uncomfortable, one that forces you to become someone new in order to live it. Because when your vision is stronger than your excuses, your standards will rise automatically. And when that happens, you won't need to push anymore. Your future will start pulling you. That's the moment life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. One of the most powerful shifts you can ever make in your life is changing who you surround yourself with. It's one of the fastest ways to raise your standards because whether you realize it or not, your environment is shaping you every single day. Your peer group sets the bar for what you believe is normal, what's possible, what's acceptable, and what's expected. And if you're surrounded by people who are comfortable with mediocrity, then guess what? You'll start to lower your standard just to fit in. It's not even conscious. It's subtle. You start dialing back your goals, shrinking your voice, brushing off your ambition so you don't make anyone else uncomfortable. You stop dreaming big, not because you don't want more, but because the people around you don't expect more from you. And deep down, we all want to be accepted. We all want to belong. But here's the truth. most people avoid. The desire to belong can either elevate you or imprison you. And it all depends on who you're trying to belong to. You got to ask yourself honestly, who am I spending the most time with? And what kind of standards are they reinforcing in my life? Are they pushing you? Are they challenging your thinking? Are they reminding you of who you said you wanted to become? Or are they enabling your comfort zone, co-signing your excuses and keeping you small because they're afraid of their own potential? You can love people and still outgrow them. You can care about someone deeply and still recognize that they are no longer aligned with where you're going. That's not disloyalty. That's growth. That's maturity. You're not abandoning anyone by raising your standard. You're just refusing to stay trapped by the expectations of people who aren't willing to grow. And let's flip it, because this isn't just about what you're getting from others. It's about what you're contributing to the energy of your circle. Who are you showing up as? Are you the one calling people higher, or are you just going along to get along? The people around you are either reflecting your highest self or revealing where you're playing small. Either way, the mirror is there. Speaking, the question is, are you listening? When you start surrounding yourself with people who are obsessed with growth, contribution, excellence, everything changes. Your conversations change, your energy shifts. Suddenly you're not the only one with crazy dreams. You're not the only one waking up early, staying disciplined, building something bigger than yourself. And that's where real transformation happens. When your new normal becomes excellence, not effort. You need people in your life who won't let you play small. People who look you in the eye and say, you're better than that. People who don't buy your excuses but believe in your potential more than you believe in it yourself on the hard days. Find those people. Fight to keep them close. And if you haven't found them yet, become them. Be the standard. Be the example. Because when you raise your energy, you naturally attract others operating on that same frequency. And look, I get it. It's uncomfortable to let go of familiar circles. But let me remind you, familiarity is not the same as alignment. Just because someone's been in your life for years doesn't mean they're meant to go with you into the next chapter. Don't let history rob you of destiny, because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You rise to the level of your peer group. Let's get one thing straight. You don't change your life by trying to change your behavior. You change your life by changing your identity, because you'll always act in alignment with who you believe you are. That's the invisible force running the whole show. You can try to push through with discipline and willpower, but if deep down you still see yourself as someone who's not good enough, not ready, not capable, you'll sabotage every breakthrough, every single time. This is why so many people stay stuck. They're trying to upgrade their habits while still holding on to the old version of themselves. They're chasing goals from a mindset that's anchored in their past. But here's the truth. You can't live a new life with the same old identity. Something has to break. Something has to shift. And that something is how you define yourself. You got to start asking yourself, who am I becoming? Not just what do I want, but who do I need to become in order to live that kind of life? Because once you truly shift your identity, everything else starts to align. Your standards go up, your behaviors follow, and guess what? It doesn't feel like a struggle anymore, because you're not trying to act like someone you're not. You've become that person. Let me give you an example. If someone's trying to quit smoking and they say, I'm trying to quit, they're still identifying as a smoker. But when they say, I'm not a smoker, the behavior change sticks because the identity has changed. Same goes for everything else. Fitness, finances, leadership, relationships. When you become the type of person who eats clean or leads with confidence or speaks with boldness, those habits stop being hard. They become automatic. They're who you are. So If you've been stuck in a pattern, starting and stopping, making a little progress, and then sliding back, it's not because you're lazy or weak. It's because your identity hasn't caught up with your vision. You're trying to live at a new standard while still holding on to the comfort of who you used to be. But you can't straddle the fence. You can't build a powerful future while clinging to an outdated version of yourself. You have to decide today who you really are. Not based on your past, not based on your current results, but based on your potential, based on the life you know deep down you were built for. And then you've got to start showing up as that version of you now. Speak like them, walk like them, make decisions like them, not when it's easy, not when it's convenient. Now, this is the moment where the standard shifts. This is where you stop saying, someday I'll be that person, and start owning it now. And yet, first, your environment won't reflect it. The people around you might not get it. Your results might not catch up immediately. But if you stay consistent, the world will catch up to the identity you've chosen to embody. Because the real power doesn't come from faking it. It comes from stepping into it. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You declare it. You decide. And once you decide, the universe starts to rearrange things in your favor. So if you want to raise your standards, start by raising your identity. Because the world will always meet you at the level of who you believe you are. Let's cut through the noise for a second. You will never raise your standard while you're still making excuses. You can have results or you can have reasons, but you can't have both. And I know that's uncomfortable to hear, but the truth doesn't care about comfort, it cares about freedom. And the second you stop negotiating with your limitations, that's when your life starts to move. See, most people are trapped in a cycle of blaming and deflecting, blaming their past, blaming the economy, blaming their boss, their parents, their partner, their circumstances. And the problem with blame is that it might make you feel better in the moment, but it robs you of all your power. Because the moment something outside of you is responsible for your life, you've given away the keys. And if someone else holds the keys, you're stuck waiting for them to change before your life can get better. That's prison ownership is freedom. When you raise your standard, you stop saying this is happening to me, and you start saying this is happening because of me. Not in a way that beats yourself up, but in a way that wakes you up. That says, if I created this, I can change it. That's the mindset that creates transformation. The people who rise, who actually sustain high standards, they're not the ones who have it easy. They're the ones who take full responsibility for the good, the bad, the ugly. They don't waste time pointing fingers. They use that time to evolve. They say, it's on me. And that's the best news ever. Because that means I can do something about it. You want to change your finances? Own the habits that got you here. You want to build better relationships? Own how you've been showing up. You want to break free from stress, overwhelm, own your rituals, own your standards, own the way you think, the way you speak, the way you react. When you do that, you move from victim to creator, and everything changes. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's necessary. It takes guts to look in the mirror and say, no more lies, no more stories, no more excuses. It takes courage to stop explaining why you're not where you want to be and just get to work becoming the person who gets there. But that kind of ownership is the foundation of lasting change. Excuses are seductive. They sound logical. They make us feel safe. But they also guarantee that nothing improves. So you've got to get in the habit of catching yourself. Every time you hear yourself say, I can't because, or it's not the right time, or they won't let me, pause, interrupt that pattern. Ask, what's really true here? Because when you strip away the story, what's left is clarity. And clarity leads to action. The moment you eliminate excuses, the road gets clear. It might not get easy, but it gets simple. You stop waiting, you stop hesitating, you start building brick by brick, day by day, and you start to realize you were never lacking time, money, talent, or luck. You were just caught in a pattern of permission, waiting for someone or something to give you the green light. But here's the truth. You are the green light. You decide when it's time. You decide what's possible. And the second you take full ownership, life opens up. Possibility expands. And your standards rise. Not because someone told you to, but because you finally remembered who you are. Because the minute you start making excuses, you start making progress. Let me tell you something that most people forget when they're chasing growth. Standards don't rise in the big moments. They rise in the little ones, the quiet ones, the ones no one's watching. The way you talk to yourself when you're tired, the way you respond when no one's there to cheer you on, the way you show up when the world doesn't clap. That's where greatness is built. We all love the big breakthroughs, the spotlight, the applause, the transformation photo. But what most people don't see, what most people never talk about, is that those breakthroughs are built on a foundation of consistency. Doing the thing over and over and over again, long after the mood you set the goal in has faded. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do what you hate. It's about aligning your actions with your identity consistently. And the reason most people never live up to their full potential isn't because they don't have talent or desire. It's because they haven't trained themselves to follow through when it's boring, uncomfortable, or inconvenient. You've got to stop relying on motivation. Motivation is a wave. It comes and goes. But standards are solid. They're the non-negotiables. And when you build a lifestyle around your standards, your life stops being about what you feel like doing, and it starts being about what you've committed to becoming. And that commitment shows up in the smallest moments. Do you keep the promises you make to yourself? Do you follow through when there's no reward? Do you train your mind to finish what you start? Because that's what separates the dreamers from the doers, the people who wish from the people who win. Consistency isn't sexy. It's not glamorous. No one's handing you trophies for waking up early, journaling, working out, doing the work day after day. But that's where your edge is built. That's where your momentum lives. And once you build that momentum, you become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you've trained yourself to be stronger. I want you to think about this. What would happen if you simply followed through on the things you already know you need to do? Not some new plan, not a radical overnight change. Just showed up fully for what's already in front of you. That one commitment to consistency can change everything, because success is never about what you do once in a while. It's about what you do daily. You've got to become the kind of person who honors their process, even when the results are slow, even when it feels like nothing's happening, because something is happening. You're changing, you're becoming, and most people quit right before their breakthrough, not because they weren't good enough, but because they expected it to happen faster. They expected ease instead of excellence. But you're not here for ease. You're here for evolution. You're here to raise the bar, not once, but every day. That takes discipline. That takes grit. That takes a decision to keep showing up no matter what. And when you do that, when you keep building the muscle of consistency, you stop hoping for change and start expecting it, because you're no longer depending on chance. You've built certainty into your life. You've become someone who can be counted on by others and, most importantly, by yourself. Because when you consistently live in alignment with your highest standard, the results are inevitable.